he's going to just point down towards the altar that she built. This is the same glyph laid out in an altar. So all of those spheres are placed in this altar of divination boards that Sonia laid out. And so we're going to be walking through these spheres through class, moving the serpent path from the manifest world to the unmanifest. And again, once we get into Kabbalah, we'll go deeper into it, but we're just going to more walk through energetically each stage along the way. Now, before we get into the calling upon and we do our initial prayer, a couple other things too is that oftentimes why for many moons now, almost a year, I do the same classes in a row, art of ritual, Egyptian cosmology, and divination, is because they interact and they flow together. They're interdependent. So the ritual practice that we're doing today and on the day of Mars, you know, this is Tuesday, this is a Martian day, this is a very action-oriented and today, what we're bringing into manifestation for our lives and to benefit our lives, to benefit all beings, human and non-human. What we do here is naturally woven and interdependent and connected to what we're doing tomorrow in Egyptian cosmology, where we start to understand all of the subtle and how the subtle and the gross, how the natural world manifests itself through these deities called the Neteru. So we'll see some of today move into tomorrow, and then tomorrow, what we learn from today and tomorrow goes all into the divination. And we learn the art of divination through ritual practice and through understanding cosmology. So it's really one big web of relationships. And this week is continuing on from last week, and last week is continuing on from the week before. It's almost like we're continually flowing and growing together. Okay, so I just want to preface with that. So let's start. We're going to start with the calling upon. Now, this calling upon movement, again, comes from one of my previous teachers about a decade ago, Goodney Goodnison and Lori Goodnison, from the Rocky Mountain Mystery School, now the Modern Day Mystery School, is a calling upon. And what we're doing is we're calling upon our higher selves to merge with our physical selves. And this is an act of grounding into the body and becoming fully present. And then we align our aligned self with the cosmos, and we align with the powers of the universe for the benefit of this class today. Now, these words can be, you can use various different kinds of words, but we're going to just stick to two particular calling upons. And you can repeat after me. The movement, very much in Kabbalah, and we'll get more into Kabbalah again, is triangles. So maybe someone up close to the camera can just show the triangle. I just want to make sure they can see it, because I can't tell if they can see it or not. This movement here, this triangle. So you're going to make that triangle in your hands, okay? And then you can go back to me. And where you're going to do it, and I'll do the movement first, and then we'll do it together. You start over here in your sacral area, your creative power. You put the triangle pointing down. Then you put the triangle pointing up, and you look through it. Then you open your hands, bring your palms facing towards your heart, and you bring the energy into your heart. Then you bring the arms down to the rest of your body, bring the energy to the rest of your body, and then you bring the energy into the circle here. That's what we're doing. So go ahead and repeat after me. I'm going to speak a section. Everyone in the room will repeat after, and then I'll know to keep moving forward. Okay? Here we go. Everyone ready? Okay. I am Isis. I call upon my higher self to merge with my physical self, to ground me in this art of ritual ceremony. I am Luna. I am Isis. I call upon the powers of heaven and the powers of the universe to come down for the benefit of this ritual offering. So now we're fully grounded, fully here. If you need to sage yourself because you feel like there's something lingering, go ahead and do that. I'm just going to offer a little piece. You know, you want to make sure to feel clear and fully available. I sage in the beginning and I forgot to mention that, so we'll sage again right now. Offering cedar for everyone. So what you can receive that is you just point your hands towards the fire and then just feel the cedar smoke come to you and through the web and reach each and every one of you. All right. One of the things I always say about these medicines is a little goes a long way. You know, in this time when magic and spirituality is becoming very popular and very in, it's a very easy time to over harvest and overuse these medicines. And it's really about little goes a long way. We don't need much. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is the first thing we did is we grounded ourselves, we called in our higher selves, we connected with the higher powers of the universe. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to acknowledge the ancestral homelands that we're a part of. And it's very important to acknowledge the ancestral homelands and really get to know the names of the tribes, of the tribal people that have been living where and tending to the ecosystem that you're inhabiting. So I just want to say greetings to the Nisenan, these ancestral homelands of the Nisenan, all the ancestors that have been here before and all the living ancestors and all the continued tribal members that are here. I want to say Shelley Covert and Ginger Covert's name here at this altar. Say thank you. And this name of this area is called Ulicha, Ulicha, Ulicha. And I want to also acknowledge all the ancestral homelands from around the world that are gathered today for this Art of Ritual class. I just want to say greetings to all of the tribal people that have been tending to the ecosystems and all these ancestral homelands all around the world, and just want to say thank you. And part of our intention here in learning these ways is to learn how to be a part of the ecosystem in a good way. We're learning how to do that. So I just want to offer a little bit of this tobacco here to all of these ancestral homelands and all of the indigenous wisdom keepers, all the indigenous people that have been keeping the ecosystems in harmony. And through these practices, may we learn how to do that more and more and more with every thought, word, and deed. All right, that's for all of you. Thank you. And now I just want to say greetings to all of our ancestors from all of our bloodline, all of our lineages. And just thank you to all of our ancestors that have dreamed this exact configuration into being, you know, the majesty, the miracle of it. And however we've been brought together for whatever reason, may it be very useful and of great benefit for each and every one of us to support us in this time, and as it supports us, supporting all of our relations, human and non-human. So we may strengthen ourselves in being really great stewards for this time of transition, and strengthen our hearts, minds, bodies, and spirits to really be able to face this important time in our human story that's been prophesized, that really we've known was coming, and here we are. And thank you to all of our ancestors that helped us alive here at this time. And we connect with you, and we want to make this offering to you, and as we carry forth the bloodlines from all of these cultures, traditions around the world, we wake ourselves up with every time we come together to be of service and make of our life an offering that is food and nourishment and useful for all beings, human and non-human. We wake ourselves up in these ways every time we come together. So all of our ancestors want to offer some of this tobacco to you also. Tobacco, North American tobacco. And that way I want to say thank you too to all the North American Native people. And these tobacco prayers that have been going for centuries, thousands, even probably thousands of years, all the ways that these prayers have been kept moving forward. Thank you. And then here too, I want to say thank you to the Oracle, this Oracle Crystal Ball, Nefertiti, and all of the benevolent beings and allies on the other side, behind the veil, that have been assisting us this entire time, whether we've been conscious or not. And today in this Art of Ritual class, we consciously open ourselves to become more aware of the benevolent ancestors, guides, and allies and beings that on the other side behind the veil. And we build a relationship here today, as we're building this relationship with ourselves, and relationship with the land, and relationship with really this earth, as everything's quieted, everything's slowing down, everything's stopping, so we can learn how to tune in with the human and non-human world. We strengthen our relationship that way too. And in this time where we're calling upon consciously or unconsciously, a reevaluation of our values, what we were born to do, what we were destined to do, why we chose to be alive at this time. And we're taking the time to do the inner work so that all of the outer work that we do has a level of integrity and care and tending and awareness into the interdependent relation of all things, human and unhuman, the interdependent relationships that keep all things living moving forward, and how everything living moving forward also has that time of death, and when that death becomes food to feed life again. We're remembering how to come back to be part of this ecosystem again. So thank you for our beings and allies on the other side, and I want to make an offering for you at this time. You are the ones offering this information and instruction for class today. Thank you. So in that way, I just want to say thank you to our Star Nation relationship through here. All right. And holy beings of all the directions, usually I call upon you in a specific way at this time, and we're going to do it a little different. So I just want to acknowledge all of you, and we're going to walk through this 8-wheel directional wheel so we can learn how to be in relation with the holy beings of the 8 directions in the wheel and above, below, and center. So thank you for your patience with me. Ankh Netaru, Ankh Netaru, Ankh Netaru. Okay. All right. So in the art of ritual, what we've done thus far, we've set the altar. Some of us, before we came on video, we did our Kundalini practices and we centered ourselves. And then the first thing we did is we did a calling upon. We called upon our highest selves to merge with our physical selves, to ground us in this ritual and this ceremony. And then what we did is we acknowledged and made an offering to the ancestral homelands and all the tribal people that we are all inhabiting, where we are inhabiting. We made an offering to them, and that offering is to give something, and not only give of something that is of the manifest world already, like this tobacco that came from the earth, but also in that art of giving acknowledgement and word, it's thank you. And we start by making an offering. Is where we begin, and this is a really important piece. We are coming upon a new moon tonight. This is the time of Aries, and in this culture, we've forgotten. We're constantly getting. I said this last week. I'm pretty sure I say it all the time. We're constantly getting and forgetting and getting and forgetting. More ideas, more concepts, more classes, more stuff, more food, more cars, more this, more that, more relationships, more likes, more followers. More. Getting and forgetting. And in the art of ritual, we're learning the art of giving and forgiving. Everything we're doing is giving. And in that practice of giving, we're also forgiving anything that we've forgotten. And forgiving any buddy or any situation that needs that care and healing. And we're making our life a practice of offering and building a life of offering. And in that consciousness that we're developing in the art of ritual, it creates a dynamic where we start to tend and care for all of the mini details that make the beauty we want to see in the world. It's because when we're making an offering, when we're giving something away, part of the giving is to give something that we love, giving of the beauty, giving of the care and acknowledgement for the beauty that we are constantly surrounded by and that's inside of us. And the art of offering is to start by giving away, and then from there, keep that practice going so that our life becomes an offering that is of use and of service at this great time of transition and transformation. So it's very much what the art of ritual is about. So we started. Take it off? Yeah, you can take that off. Just speak up. Speak up. Okay, speaking. Okay, so
Then we made the offerings to these ancestral homelands, right? And then we acknowledge, I'm giving you a list here, if you haven't figured that out yet. There's a list of a right. I'm passing you rights. Then what we do is we acknowledge all of our benevolent ancestors, each and every one of our ancestors that have dreamed us into the being in this exact configuration. It's probably different from last week, that was different from the week before, that was different from the week before that. We're acknowledging our ancestors and the intelligence of our bloodlines here. And we make an offering to them to say thank you. Because for whatever reason, they're part of dreaming this collaboration, because regardless if we're in physical presence or we're online, we're creating a memory palace of wisdom, understanding, and information and remembrance that is passing through each other. It's like ding, 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 ding. And part of how that's happening is because of the ancestors that drew us into this alignment, that's informing what information wants to be brought forward for each and every one of us at this time. And so we always start by making an offering to them too. And from there, we call upon, the way that I do it is I call upon the directions, okay? So oftentimes, the reason why I didn't do it in the beginning is because we're doing a new process right now. One of my teachers, Marza Millar, she is an elder here, Yavapai elder, and she's also a voice for the Hopi. She was given very clear instruction from the Hopi that we need to start working with the cross-border directions at this time. As the world is turning, and so many of us are used to working with the 4 directions, north, east, south, and west, we need to learn how to work with the cross-borders and work in an 8-directional wheel. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk through that today. Is there a question?
Someone just asking where we can order the beautiful stone plate to hold the offerings.
Where they can get a stone?
They're talking about
the boards.
The boards.
Oh
You're
yeah.
talking about the boards.
Are you talking about the boards? Yes, we can get that. You just send us an
You can send Isis
my
a message
Instagram.
on her Instagram.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about, because oftentimes in the art of ritual, the next step that we do is we call the directions. So we're going to talk about this 8-directional wheel. We did a very beautiful job of drawing it. We're getting this technical here. Let's get back a little bit. All right, so I invite everybody to draw first across like this. So draw across. Now this class is very much drawing. We're going to do a lot of drawing today. And this is part of how we're going to be working with the art of manifestation in Mars. Mars is very much, Martian energy is very much about action. Action moving forward. Sometimes it's associated with conflict, but it's really about the fire energy and action moving forward. And at this time, we're learning about how we are powerful magicians and we are powerful manifestors. We're always creating every day, every step we make, every walk moving forward, we're creating something. And part of what this class is for is to help us tune into what we're creating and be more aware of it and bring a level of attention and clarity inside of it so the beauty we want to see in the world actually manifests. So how we're starting with this is we're doing the directions. Okay, so draw your cross. Now start with south at the top. Okay, now most people are like, wait, isn't north supposed to be there? And we'll explain why. South at the top and moving in a clockwise, sunwise motion. We're going to do west next. We're just doing the 4 crosses right now. West next. Then moving in a sunwise, clockwise motion, north below. And then moving in a sunwise motion, east over here on the eastern side.
This is flipped too, so
Flipped.
your east, it will look reverse to this. Make sure you're going clockwise and not doing it a mirror.
Thank you. Thank you. Does everyone get that? It's reversed. So south going clockwise, south at the top of the cross. My brain. Then, because it's reversed this,
Sunwise.
so east.
East. Yeah.
Then west. Yeah, okay, good.
West, north,
East. South at the top, west going clockwise on the right, north at the bottom going clockwise on the right, sunwise, and then east across from west. Everybody get that?
So west will be on the right side of your paper and east will be on the left side of your paper.
Okay. Now, thank you for clarifying that. Now, you're going to draw inside your four directions. You're going to do your cross quarters. And these, you did a very nice job. You can see the cross quarters right here. So go ahead and draw your cross quarters. Just like that. Okay. So in between south and west, you have southwest. In between west and north, you have northwest. In between north and east, you have northeast. And then in between east and south, you have southeast. Okay, so now why is south at the top? That was one of the first questions. How come north isn't at the top? Now, we're talking about what we're doing right here. We're not going to focus on seasons because there's a lot of people from around the world, and so seasons are a little different. We're going to focus more on the time of day. So east is the sunrise. So we start in the east with sunrise, and this is a North American style, right? East and the sunrise. Southeast is between sunrise and south being high noon. So like if sunrise is at 7 a.m. and noon, high noon, let's say sunrise is 6, high noon is 12, what time would be southeast? Southeast,
6,
in between.
3.
6 a.m. is sunrise,
Yeah.
12 is high noon,
9 a.m.
9. So this would be 9 a.m. So you see we got sunrise in the east, southeast is around 9 a.m., high noon is the south, okay? We're doing the clock. Then southeast to southwest into west. West is sunset. So say your sun sets at 6 and your high noon is south. I mean, your high noon is high noon 12 and sunsets at 6. So what time does southwest be? 3. So you've got high noon, 3 p.m., sunset. Then from sunset to north, west to north, north would be what? What's the guess? Midnight. So between sunset and north, we have midnight. In between that, let's say 6 p.m., 12, northwest would be
3 in the morning.
6 p.m. and 12. 9 p.m. 9 p.m. Then the north is midnight, and then midnight to sunrise.
So
Northeast would be 3 a.m. Okay. Now, why is this important? Because we're learning about how sun rises and sun sets, and how the sun gets, swallowed by the body of noon and all the hours of the night, and how the sun travels through the night, and then it rises again in the east. This is the energy we're working with when we're tuning into qualities of these directions. Now, simultaneously, we have timelines in life. Like oftentimes the east is recognized as birth, child, like a new day, the sun coming from a new day. It's like the child coming forth. And we move up and move into what? Often this quadrant is, we move into the different phases of life. All the way to north. I'm not going to go through them. I think you can kind of figure it out. North is oftentimes death and eldership is northwest, and death is ancestors. North is the ancestors. So this starts to help indicate what kind of energies we're working with when we're calling in the directions, or working with the directions. What that doorway feels like. I'm going to speak about east. Sun rises in the east. It's a new day. It's the time when the birds fly. It's also the time when children are born, like the time of birth, and the time of like a new cycle, a new beginning. Every day in the sun rises, we have a new day. That's kind of the energy of the east. Now, if south is high noon, and it's really when the sun is radiating and shining light and helping things grow from that sun, and it's when we're kind of illuminated in our work that we're here to do. We're shining in that way. What would southeast be? Can you hold this for a second?
If you guys have to guess, if you come right here too, that might be
I don't
nice.
know. I wonder if I should show this. Maybe you could bring that
In the face of light, what is it?
Like the energy. What would the, like if east is like the new day, sunrise, birth,
The southeast is like childhood.
the maiden. It's very much the maiden. Southeast. So this is where we're getting into maidenhood and sometimes considered like erotic flow, where we start to feel our erotic flow. East is often related to what element in this? But high noon would be fire.
East
So
is air.
air. Now, sometimes one thing I want to take a note of is a lot of times in calling of the directions, you have multiple different kinds of versions of this, depending on where you are on the around the world, what tradition you're working with. So it's really important to take note. Okay.
We're gonna do ours reverse so that it's the same for you guys.
Oh, okay. Okay. Nice. So this is a particular cosmology that we work with in the Oracle clan, and that's the one that I'm going to be sharing with you. But again, depending on your tradition, where you come from, or you'll see different maps. Okay, so southeast would be flow, and like really this erotic flow where you're learning from the moment of creation how creation works and how creation is moving, and that how that erotic energy is manifesting more. And south, high noon, is when it's like the most illuminated manifestation, right? And then we move into this way to the west. South, the west is sunset. So that's when the world is starting to, the day is starting to go to rest. And what would be southwest in that context then?
Like the elder.
Not
No,
yet.
not quite like
It's
the,
after death, like the afterlife.
No. It's like after midlife, or maybe midlife, like
Yeah, like adulthood, or
adulthood,
like, you know, find,
after your prime.
yeah,
Like
Is that southeast?
Parenting.
parenting.
Yeah,
Mhm.
west.
Yeah, and west is when we're starting to go to rest, and west is associated with water. So we have east that's air, south is fire, west is water, sunset. This is when the day is starting to go to rest. This whole timeline up here is often related to ascending energy. This is when we're in this ascent time of life. And so when you're thinking about calling the directions, you're really acknowledging this ascending energy. Oftentimes we'll start with the east, we'll go to the south, and then we'll go to the west and go to the north. What's that?
Hey,
They
Liz,
just said that was actually better.
Oh, okay,
it was actually right.
great. Okay, well, I'm gonna keep talking while the coyote
Figuring out.
trickster
You can keep those. Those are the
Yeah, sorry.
keeps playing with us in the west. So west is sunset. Now from west to northwest, north, and northeast, we start to move into descending energy. We start to move into night. Now there's this really beautiful story of this Egyptian Netheru. Her name is Nut. She's the sky deity. She is the sky. You know, oftentimes in North American native traditions, the sky is associated with a male energy, and the Egyptian Netheru, it's a woman. It's a female energy. So the story is when she births the sun, right? And so the sun takes this journey from now, birth of the new sun, 9 a.m., by noon, 3 p.m., sunset 3 p.m., 6 p.m. And then she eats the sun at sunset. And then at all of the hours of the night are the sun's journey in the nighttime through all the hours of the night. And it's a whole journey through the underworld, through the descending world, through the unseen realm. And then the sun is birthed again. So this is the ascending energy of the sun, and this is the descending energy of the sun. And that's what we're working with. That's why we have south at the top. So from the water realms, now we look at it elementally. We think of sunrise, we think of air, new breath, life. Then we think of south, fire, and it's like that creative spark, that creative energy that's like flourishing and bringing life, helping to grow all of life. And then we think of water, and it's that moving into the watery realms of consciousness where we're kind of laying to rest. Can be very introspective. Obviously, water means a lot of things, but in the context of these directions, it can be very introspective, going within, because from this realm of the west at 6 p.m. sunset, we're starting to go into the descending realm. Northwest being 9 p.m., north being midnight. So this is where we move from adulthood, starting to move into eldership, and ancestor realms right here. And this is coming up for new life again, okay? So ascending, descending. That's what we're working with. Now, when we start to work with these 8 directions, tomorrow we're going to associate different Egyptian Netheru to them. And for the context of today, I'm going to do a brief calling upon of the holy beings of the 8 directions. And then what we do is we call upon the holy beings of these 8 directions. Then we call upon the holy beings of the lower world beneath this earth, because there's obviously a lot of life force energy beneath this earth, all kinds that we barely know. We know more about the sky than we know what's in the earth, all these elemental, these life force energy in the lower world. Then we're acknowledge the holy being of the middle world, and then we're going to acknowledge the holy beings of the upper world. Sometimes people do the reverse. They'll do the upper worlds first, the middle world, and the lower world. We're going to do it this way today for the context of this class. And I'm just going to say holy beings so you can kind of get an idea of where I'm coming from. And then tomorrow, we're going to call upon Egyptian Netheru in each one of those. So you'll receive Netheru to work with. The Netheru names that we're going to work with tomorrow are associated with these directional realms. Okay? Sounds good. So everyone got it? Any questions before I simply do this? It's very easy. Each and every one, you've probably done something like this before. So we're just going to do it again, adding in the cross borders. Okay. Any questions before I do it?
Not yet.
Okay, cool.
All good, people are saying.
Great.
Can you describe more about the sunset is a question.
Yeah, so we'll talk more about tomorrow. It's a great question. So one of the stories is that Nut, which is this beautiful sky goddess, and she lays like this across the sky. You see her like this. And the whole body of the stars is her sky. So it's very, very, very beautiful. And what she does is she births the sun. She births the sun through her womb. And the new day is the sun coming from her womb. And then that's where we see the journey from the east, southeast, south, southwest to the west. Then at the west, sunset, she eats the sun, and the sun goes through her body. And they go all the hours of the day, or the sun going through her body, and she's the night sky. And so oftentimes in Egyptian cosmology, there are offerings you make in the day for the sun day, and then there are offerings you make in the night. Yes, for the moon, but also for the sun at night, because the sun boats, these solar boats, they carry the souls from the cosmos to planet Earth and back again. So it's also about how we care for all of the souls coming in and exiting. It's very much related to that. We'll talk more about that tomorrow, but look up Nut, the sky goddess. She's also associated with Nu, and Nu is the primordial waters of the cosmos, where like all the swirling hydrogen and oxygen is moving around, and how from that place, I spoke about this last week, lives the androgynous serpent. That's the life force energy. And from that place comes all things start to come into manifest. And when they get to this particular local universe, which is where we as a cosmos move around the sun, starts to create sky. And then we see the sky, which is the body of Nut. Okay, so moving forward. So now when you call upon the 8 directions, I always recommend starting in the east and really getting to know where east is. If you don't know where east is, that's okay, but it's nice to know where it is. It's also helpful, especially in these times, to know our inner compass, know where sun rises and where sun sets. That will be very useful for you in everything you do. So you start in the east, and the way that I begin is I'm not going to face and turn, but usually I'll stand up and I'll have a drum or an instrument. Oftentimes one person will have a drum and I'll have a whistle, but very simply, it doesn't need to be, it can be creative and elaborate, or it can be very simple. For today, it's going to be very simple. Oftentimes I'll say, greetings, holy beings of the east. Now, oftentimes we hear, please come into this circle, where it's good to remember that the holy beings are always here. They're not going anywhere. They've been here the whole time. It's more time about like, I call upon you at this time, you know, because if you're like, please be here with us. Or what's the other common phrase? Watchtowers of the watchtowers. There's another phrase I can't remember, but hail is great. Hail the holy beings of the East. Hail the watchtowers of the East. I call upon you at this time to be with us in this circle. And I say thank you, and I make an offering of gratitude. So why I use an instrument is I'm making an offering to them, and I'm also calling them to come and join us, to be with it, help us create this magic circle. So I'll do holy beings of the East. Then when I feel complete, it's just hail holy beings of the East. Call upon you at this time to be here in this circle as we do this art of ritual ceremony, this class, to support us in our life and all of what we're doing here on this new moon. You can also speak about the sunrise. You can make it as creative as you wish, but you can also make it very simple. Oh, thank you. Blessed be. Then now, what's after south? East. What's after east?
South.
Southeast. Because remember, now we're calling in the 8 directions. We're not just doing east, south, west, and north. Because part of what the prophecies say, according to Marza and the Hopi, is that we need to bring in the cross quarters. Now, I was going to talk about the cross quarters in relationship to seasons, but I'm not going to, because I think we need to focus on Sigil Craft today. But so then you would say, holy beings of the southeast, call upon you at this time. Thank you for my life. Thank you for this new day. Thank you for this opportunity to shine and help, and this opportunity to be alive at this time. Very simple like that. Oh, blessed be, thank you. Make an offering. Could be a whistle, could be a drum, could be your whistle. Then, southeast to south. So you got east, southeast, south. Same thing. Holy beings of the south, call upon you at this time, etc., etc., etc. Remember, this is fire. You have east in the air, fire in the south. Same thing. South, then what's after south? Southwest. South, calling upon the holy beings in the southwest. After southwest is west. West is water. So now one thing I want to note, between south and fire and west and water, you have the combination of the fire and the water in the southwest. So this is where we start to get into subtleties of these elements. Part of why we learn elemental relationships and we learn art of ritual, we learn how to work with these elemental relationships, is we learn the subtleties of how the elements express themselves and work together. This is where we start to be able to see into weather patterns, feel into weather patterns, relate with weather patterns. This is part of learning the art of magicianship, is learning how to be in relationship with the elements. So we get to the west, then after the west is northwest. Holy beings of the northwest, call upon you at this time. Thank you for our lives. Thank you for coming and being part of this sacred circle. Then to the north. Holy beings of the north, thank you so much to all of our ancestors. Call upon you at this time to be here with us in the circle. Thank you so much. Then to the northeast. Holy beings of the northeast. Thank you again for our lives, and thank you for helping us complete the circle here at this time in all of the 8 directions. Now I say thank you to the lower world, holy beings, benevolent beings of the lower world. And this is where we get into Oser and some of the Neteru deities. So we're looking at lower world, what's beneath the earth herself, the middle earth, and the upper worlds. Holy beings, holy and benevolent beings. It's very important that you clarify that, holy and benevolent. You want to be very careful about who you're working with or who you're calling upon to be in your circle. Sometimes if you just say beings of the underworld or beings of the netherworld, you might be conjuring or drawing upon energies that aren't actually useful for your ceremony, for your ritual. You want to be very careful, because part of what we're doing is creating a magic circle. We're creating a protection circle of all of these benevolent and loving allies to be with us. So benevolent and loving allies in the netherworld, calling upon you at this time. And then tomorrow we'll particularly call upon Osiris. From there, say thank you to the earth. Thank you for Blessed Mother. Thank you to, and then we'll talk Egyptian Neteru tomorrow, which is Geb. Then in this middle world, acknowledging the holy beings of this middle world. And then acknowledging the holy beings of the upper world, star nations. Thank you to our benevolent guides in the star nations, calling upon you at this time as we create this sacred circle for this ritual. All comes into being. We make that final offering. We say, "Oh, blessed be," and then I say, "Ankh Neteru, Ankh Neteru, Ankh Neteru, ANKH, Ankh Neteru, NETERU." It's the life force energy of all of the principles and the qualities of the natural world. Saying thank you and calling, acknowledging that is where we come from, and that is ultimately where we return to. The eternal life cycle of all of these qualities of the natural world that make up who we are and that make up the world we exist in. So it's learning how to give acknowledgement to all of the subtleties of this natural world. Okay, so that is the directional, very simple creation of a circle. Are there any questions before we move on?
I'm going to type that in the chat.
No question? So I just made an offering there. All right. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to...
Couple questions.
Okay, we'll take a couple questions before we move to sigils.
One question was, my intuition says you would start in a different order depending on the time you were calling upon the directions. Is that true? Would they start at a different time if they were doing it at midday or doing it at nighttime?
You totally can. It really depends on the ritual, the intention of the ritual, and what you're doing for. Sometimes I really like to, regardless, start in, I mean, again, it's up to you and your magical practice. You can essentially work in relation with the elements as you wish, as long as you know what you're doing and why, and you have a very clear relationship. I personally like to start in the East because I'd like to start with that fresh, birthing new energy. I'd like to start honoring the children, honoring the new ones from the very beginning. And then from there, honoring the cycle of life that leads to death, sunrise that leads to a release. So that's why I like to start in the East, no matter what, at any time. But again, if you really feel in your heart that you want to do that, there are certain other rituals that we're not going to go into in this class where you do specifically start in other directions for specific reasons. A lot of it is very specific to the ritual, but as you wish.
Okay.
And then there was one more.
There was one more, I mean, just more about the sunset in the north.
Sunset and the north?
Yeah.
Okay. So sunset in the west. Now again, there are a lot of different directional maps and functions and purposes. Like if you go into South America, it's a different lineup of the elements and directions. Probably similar to Australia too. I think Missy's here, I'm guessing. So it's worth looking into the lineage lines that you feel most called to. In terms of sunset in the north, sunset in the context of this particular alignment is related to water. So it's when the sun basically like drops behind the water. It like goes into the water. You know, like I grew up on the island of Guam, and I would always watch the sunset at the water. So I'd always be like, "Thank you, sun," and like watch the sun go into the water, and then that brings. Then all of a sudden, the moon starts to rise, and you see the moon come, stars. So that's why, and west is related to also water. It's a time of introspection and going within. So the sun setting in the west is the time to go within, time for to welcoming of night. Now north is, and I'm not entirely sure of the question, but I'm going to keep speaking, hoping I'm answering your question. North is related to, this is where the ancestors go, and the North Star, and where we connect to the ancestors. And north is the earth, is the body of the earth, the fertile soil. So it's like when the sun sets, it goes into that water, sun sets that water, and then it goes into the body of the earth. And then that way, the night sky and all the stars, all of our ancestors, we can see in the sky. When the sun sets in the north, sun sets in the west and goes into the north. That's where it's darkness, and then we see all of our star relationships, all of our ancestors, all where we come from, and that where we return to. That's where some of that relationship comes in the way that I've been taught. Any more questions before we move on? Sigil Craft's going to take some time, so I just want to make sure we have time for that. Sydney Sun, come up over the water. Yes, most definitely, Mitzi. That would be fertility for sure. Yep, absolutely. Okay. All right, so we're going to now make an offering. That's all the questions? Come from since, oh, Lily, I believe earlier you referred to southeast having fire energy. Where does that element come from since south, if fire east is, okay, you got it. Sounds good. Okay, cool. All right, we're going to move to Sigil Craft. So, Sigil Craft, this is one of my favorite magic.
Here and then put it there.
Sure. Sigil Craft is one of my very, very, very favorite practices. Actually, before you do this, let me talk about it. Don't spend time looking at it. Okay. Sigils. Okay. Sigils are a very, this is a very Mars-like practice. This is a day of Mars. Mars is like action moving forward. The symbol of Mars is a circle with an arrow. So this is where we're like working with the art of manifestation to bring forward into manifestation what we want to see for our lives. Sigils have been one of the most useful practices for me for like, I don't even know. I've probably drawn over 100 different sigils, more than that. Like for a while I was drawing sigils all the time. They're very, very useful. Now what they are is they're symbols. So if you have a specific prayer, a name, let's say a business name that you want to create a logo from, or a prayer of healing that you want to give to somebody else, or something you want to project into the world to manifest, into manifestation. This is where Sigil Craft becomes very useful. Because what we do is through the art of writing out these things, and I'll explain it, like the name or the prayer, we distill it and we create through aligning all those letters into a symbol that we then use to project into the field what we are manifesting. Sigils also, because they're symbols, they're symbols, and they're really creating a bridge between your subconscious realm and your conscious realm. And so it's calling upon really that bridge to help you manifest in the world what you want to see, and then also attract to it. Because the world is mostly made up of symbols and sigils. You look everywhere. I mean, that's essentially what logos are. Now, what we're doing here is we're working with the magical practice of speaking into writing into manifestation. Exactly what we're projecting, distilling it into a symbol, and then using that ritually for our subconscious, our conscious, and our superconscious to support in manifestation. It becomes a symbol that becomes a living prayer moving forward. Now, what I'm gonna invite each and every one of you to do is, if you haven't already, take a moment to feel into what is it that you'd like to manifest in the world and project into the world. Now, something that's really important is to keep it very simple. Sometimes if your prayer is so large you can't remember it, it's hard to walk it. So is there like a particular business you want to launch, and you can do the name of the business? Is it you want to bring yourself up into the world? You want to express yourself more up at this time. You feel like you've been hiding. You want to come more to the forefront, to the stage of your life. Then you can write your name down. So you're going to write it. So you write your name down in all capital letters. Again, if it's a business you want to project, write the business in all capital letters. Write it down. If it's like healing energy you want to send to a loved one, write the name of the loved one and write something related to that healing energy. Let's say it's a prayer that you want to strengthen, something you've already set in motion and you want to strengthen it more. You can write the word strengthen, whatever that is, that prayer. Okay? So go ahead and write down your sentence or your word of what you want to make a sigil for. Write it in capital letters across, almost like one long word. Like instead of separate words, make it one long word, even if it's a prayer. Okay, so we're going to do that for about 1 minute. It's important to keep it short because you want it to be simple and you want to be able to, you want to remember it and you want to be able to walk it and embody it in everything you're doing. Sometimes we think that, complex things are, just more full, but, it's also like, we have so many allies and guides and beings, and, creation isn't biased. Creation energy, life force energy isn't biased. It's just going to support what you're calling into your life, what you think, what you imagine, what you're saying. And so this is all the more reason why it's very good that we are clear. The more clear we are, the more our ancestors, benevolent ancestors, guides, allies, and creation energy can support it, support what we want to manifest in the world. Okay? So we're gonna have 1 more minute to write the word down. So at 3:56, we're gonna go to the next step. You got it? Okay, cool. And we'll go to the after. Okay, so distracting. Okay, 1 minute, we're gonna switch. Move on.
On that one.
Yeah, because I just want to forget. Okay. All right, so now the next step. Now, there are many different ways to do sigils. So this is going to slightly, I've taught this a bunch too. Laura's here, I see Laura. Laura, this is going to be slightly different from how you've learned it. There are tons of different ways to do sigils. I'm going to show you a new way, slightly new technology related to what we just learned in the 8 directions, okay? So now, with your entire word, I'm going to do one that I've already done just because for the context of this class, it seems easy to do. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at, slight Lowenstein, says Oracle Arts Apprenticeship. So now what you're going to do, we're going to make one long word, just like this. Oracle Arts Apprenticeship. I did this a while ago. And now what you're going to do is you're going to cross out every second letter. Every second letter. So, but you're going to keep one of each letter. So I see O-R-A-C-L-E. That's all there. Oh, I see an A. I'm going to cross this A out. I see another R. I'm going to cross this R out. There's no T. There's no S. That's all there. See another A. Cross that A out. No P, but I'm going to cross the second P. I'm going to cross that R, because we had R up there. We have E there, crossing that E. Keeping N, crossing the T, because there's a T there. Keeping the I, crossing the C, E, S, so on and so forth. Okay? Cross out every second letter. Okay? So go ahead and do that. Everybody cross out every second letter.
Or third or fourth, any duplicate.
Yeah, sorry. Any duplicate, any second letter, third or fourth. Thank you, Jen. Then, as you get every second letter crossed out, now sometimes you won't use vowels, but today we're going to use vowels. So then you're going to write out all the remaining letters, making sure there's only one of each and one long line in front of you. Okay? All the remaining letters, making sure there's only one of each and one long line. Thank you. So I have O-R-A-C-L-E, R-T-S-P-N-H. Okay? So do your one long sentence of all the remaining letters. Okay? All right. Or every, but you didn't cross, sorry. Why is oracle spelled out without R or C being taken out? Because, oh, this should be out. This R should be out. Oh, one single letter of each one. Oh, the L, I see. I accidentally took out the L. Thank you for noticing that. ORACLETSPNH. Thanks for noticing that. And then every duplicate, yes. You only want one of every letter. You don't want two, you don't want three, just one of every letter. You cross out every second one and every third one. Every single duplicate you cross out, so you only have one of every letter left. Okay? Now, you have one of every letter left. You're now going to do something a little different. Okay, so now you're going to take your 8 directional grid that you did. Okay, so you're going to draw first in your 8 directional grid. You're going to draw a cross like this. That's your anchor. Okay, so now draw your cross on your anchor. Remember, you have all these remaining letters. You can do a different, yeah, make a different cross. Make your different cross, okay? Now, you're gonna draw your cross quarters, like this. So now you have an 8 directional grid to work with. Now, some sigils you see like this, because what you're gonna now do is you're gonna draw every single one of these letters from your prayer that you're setting in motion. You're gonna make one symbol. Now, some sigils, you do it all in one symbol like this. Like this is my Oracle Arts Apprenticeship sigil that I'm really the Oracle Arts Academy. That's what this sigil is. So this is what's has become the logo for the school. Now, you can do it this way, or, so how it works in doing it this way, and then I'm going to talk about this way. You'd start by, you still have your grid. You start to draw all the letters on your axis point. So there's my O, there's my R. I think it's very important, not all sigil crafters feel this way, but I think it's very important. If you're putting a prayer in motion moving forward, I think it's very important to move in a sunwise, clockwise direction. Not all sigil crafters feel this way, but I do. So I'm just gonna say it, but you can decide. Because you're putting a prayer in motion, you want it to move forward. You don't want it to move backward. So I always go clockwise, moving forward.
Why would you do the R, just that one part of the R?
Because my R's are here. R, R.
Oh, okay.
So I have my,
use the other
I'm
letters.
using the other letter. There's my R, O, R. Then my A, I'm gonna use my A this way. So my A is right here. See?
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm gonna just acknowledge this C already. I don't need to draw another C. Then I'm gonna acknowledge my L here. I'm gonna add in my E. So on and so forth. So this is one way you draw all the letters from your remaining letters into the grid. Okay? When you're complete with a letter, go ahead and cross it out so you know you got everybody. Everybody's included.
Are you doing lowercase and uppercase? In
Yeah.
Sigil?
Yeah, you can do lowercase and uppercase as you wish. I think it's very important to move in a sunwise, clockwise motion because this is the energy of increase. You want to increase the magnetic energy. You want to project it out into the world. You want to make manifest exactly what the sigil is for. Okay? So you're going to draw it out, da-da-da, put it in one grid here, just like that. Okay? Now, this is one way, okay? Now, what I'm about to tell you might be slightly confusing, and that's okay, but we know one way. Everyone's got the first way. One way, way number one, regardless if you choose way number two, we're still going to interact with the 8-way grid. But for example, this is way number one. Way number two is this 8-way grid. Now here, you can draw the letters in your grid. And you can also, if you want, later on, don't worry about it right now, think of it in relationship to where you are in the 8-way direction. So let's say I want to do my O here. And I want to start to connect my R this way. And I want to start to connect my A here. You can start to draw your grid in a clockwise motion this way. It's another way you can do it. Or that if that feels like too much to figure out, focus on this, and then we're going to plant this on that. Okay? So go ahead, take your time. You're going to have a couple minutes. I'm not going to give you a lot of time to do this because part of it is you're going to take this home and work on it some more. Okay. So you can draw each letter that way, but if that's confusing, just focus on doing one grid here. Can you explain the second way in more detail? Does it matter where on the grid the letters go? Eric, great question, Jenny. So it doesn't matter where the letters go on the grid, as long as you, in my opinion, what I like to do in magicianship work is move in a clockwise motion. So let's say you put your O here on this cross section, and you want to bring your R here because that relates to maybe the ancestors. If you want to think that way, you can. And then you want to bring your A here because you want to call in this A, which is the beginning. You want to call in the solar energy in your A. You can do that too. It just depends on how nerdy you want to get. And now, but one of the things everyone to know, you don't spend too much time on these things because we're going to do another practice that's going to simplify it. Okay? All right. So is the grid a part of the sigil? It will be, yes. So this is sigil style 1. This is sigil style number 2. And if you stick with sigil style 1, we're going to implant it in on the grid. Okay? So that's why we started the class with the grid, so that this weaves together. Okay, you're going to have one more minute to draw all your letters on the grid, either on this grid or that grid. And then we're going to move to the next stage. So in 1 minute. But don't get attached to what you're drawing because it's going to change. You're going to simplify it. So 4:07, we're going to move on. Art class. Art with intention class. Manifest the beauty we want to see in the world by making beauty. All right, I'm giving you a couple more seconds and then we're going to move on. Okay. So now, look at your sigil map that you made, your grid, whether it's this one or this one. Now what you're going to do you remember that, it's hard for me to hear responses, but that what was it, mind's eye, where you learn how to look with two eyes, and it's almost like you go cross-eyed, and it looks like the world kind of visions and blends together. So you look almost cross-eyed, look at the tip of your nose and see how the world blends together. You're going to stare at your sigil that way. So go ahead and do the cross-eyed look where the world, it starts to blur, and see the sigil that way, and stay present to that as long as you can. And now start from there. If you can with your blurry-eyed vision, stay with it. If not, now simplify your sigil. Now, why you want to make it very simple is because you're going to learn how to draw it in the air. So if it's too much stuff, it's hard to remember. You want to make it very easy for you to be able to draw it in the field elegantly. Okay? So use your third eye, or your two eyes. When the two become one, as within, so without, that which is above is that which is below. And when the two eyes become one, then you enter the queendom of heaven. So the two eyes are becoming one, and you see the sigil. And now go ahead and draw a simplified version of it. Very, very simple. your symbol. This is a symbol for your project, or your life, or your name. Bring your name and your spirit to the stage, or the healing energy you want to project and send to someone, something like that. Be very careful with this technology. Do not use it for negative. Promise me you will never, you will never use this for anything other than benevolent purposes. Just want to state that clearly. This is all on behalf of the good of all beings, human and non-human. Okay? All right, now, mine looks so much more complicated. Okay, well, give us a little more time. Okay, I'll give you guys a little bit more time. And Vonetta, as you wish, you can simplify it. If it looks more complicated through your eyes, take some time to simplify it, because you're gonna learn how to draw it in the air. So you want it to be as simple as possible, okay? So I'll give you guys some more time, Giovanna, for sure. Message, yes. Pumped. Okay. Now, as you guys are drawing, I'll just say that I was teaching a Sigil Craft, and somebody sent me this article years ago about the clothing company Nasty Gal, and they were saying that like the woman, I can't remember her name, and Sophia. It was an article. I can't remember how like it happened, or somebody told me or something. That like she talks about Sigil Craft and how her business got as popular as it did is because of working with sigils. So I would say for me, all my most serious things I've manifested have come from sigils. So I really believe in the power of sigils. Okay, would you mind relating how to extrapolate the original mapping all the letters to the 8-axis grid? Yes. Okay, so when you're looking at the 8-axis grid, and Sean, you already drew all your letters on the grid, right? Sean? Yes, okay. So let's say you have all your letters on the grid. Let's say you have like 20 of them. Like that many, I'm just gonna draw some. So the way that you can, when you look at your grid with the double eye, if you have a pencil or a pen, that's fine. You look at the double eye, and sometimes it starts to like, with this, you get a lot more letters, right? And what you can do with your double eye after, see what your double eye when the eye two become one shows you. Yes, Vonetta, real quick to answer your question, she asked, because this is related to you, Sean. In simplifying, is it okay if we lose some letters? You never lost the letters because you drew them there in the first place. So if you simplify, they're already there. They never lose them. So the answer is yes, but it never is lost. Okay, so Sean, when you get the double eye, when the two become one, and you start to see the grid, now see what's coming out of it. Now from that, you can start to go, like for me, I did it now. I'm seeing this circle on its own. And I'm seeing it go like this. So draw the first grid. Like you can spend your time on one letter in the grid and spend your time on the second letter in the grid. Again. And start to draw what it's showing you. So all these letters have now come into what looks like a human for me. That's my extrapolated grid from this grid. Do you see what's happening, Sean? Simplify it, because you already drew them already on the grid, so everything's there. Okay, great, starting to get it, perfect. All right, this is fun. Okay. Now, I'm gonna give you guys a couple more minutes and then we're gonna move on because we gotta do the next part before this class is over. We always go over, I try to have the main part of the class done at 4:30 and then we talk. Seeing logos like this may be from this process. I worked as a brand expert for years. Oh, awesome, perfect, yes. Can letters be upside down? Okay, so great question, Chris. Can letters be upside down? Some sigil crafters say yes. I personally choose not to have upside down letters because for me and the way that my mind, heart, and body works, I work from clocks. If I'm doing the path moving forward, I move in a clockwise, sunwise motion, and I move from the above world to the upper world over again. So I like to move sunwise, clockwise, and from the manifest to the above world back again. So that's why I never do upside down letters, but some crafters believe it's fine to do. But just think about the below world and the above world, right? That's why in the very beginning of the class, we talked about below and above. That's why I went deep into that, because we're talking about the energy from the below world and the energy from the above world, what you're extracting and working with. Can letters be backwards? Yes, letters can be backwards. It's ideal to focus on, I believe, in the path moving forward and what you want to project in the world, focus on energy moving forward, circular, clockwise growth, energy of growth.
So the same for like letters on their side.
Yeah, letters on their side's fine too. Yeah. Okay, so now for those that did this style, okay, Sean, you did this style, so it's worth noting this, but you don't necessarily need to apply this, but you can if you like. For those that did the single grid style, now you're going to draw your 8-way grid again. Okay. You're going to have it singular on its own, and then you're going to have the grid. Now, you're going to draw your sigil on your grid. So just go ahead and do that. I'm going to do this one. So in the context of ritual, drawing your sigil on your grid, is it better if the overall symbol is circular versus vertical? No, it can be as you wish, whatever feels good to you. Circular, vertical, whatever you enjoy working with, because this is about you and your life. Now, in the context of the grid, remember, we have south at the top, north at the bottom. Am I drawing in the right way for everybody? I don't know, west, I'm just gonna do it the way I know it. East, we have southeast, southwest, northwest, northeast. It's worth noting where majority of your sigil energy resides. Like for me, I don't have a lot of sigil energy in the east, northeast, and north. Majority of my sigil energy is really like alive in the southeast to the northwest. To me, then that I'm starting to think, okay, cool. This is the energy of those, the time of day, or the quality of those elemental directions. These are my allies when we get into beings tomorrow that I might want to work with to project this energy. You can look at it like that. Now, I'm going to erase these directions. So just get to know where your sigil is very alive on your grid. Okay, so now you're going to learn about how to draw the sigil, because you're going to learn how to draw the sigil into your grid, which is your 8-directional grid, right, that we talked about in the very, very beginning. Okay, so I hand this to you. All right.
So this outer end.
That can stay out for a moment. So before we learn how to draw the sigil into the grid, one of the things I want to acknowledge is the way that I was taught is that these 2 fingers, your right hand, your first and your second, in the context of this practice, obviously this evolves, like all magical practices evolve. Some carry in the same line, some change involve. I was taught that these are the fire fingers. So when you're drawing your sigil, one way to project it is sometimes through talismans, necklaces as an example. So what I'll do is I will dip my fingers into lemon water. You can also do an essential oil that has a very Martian forward moving energy. Like I feel like On Guard does that in a way, even though it's like a cleaning energy, but like cinnamon, or, you know, think about different oils or medicines that have a Martian. Maz and Laura could probably give us a list of Martian plants and oils we can work with. So you would dip your fingers in lemon water. And if there's a particular talisman or necklace you want to wear to project it, you then draw your sigil with your fingers in a clockwise motion, your sigil on your talisman. So then it's with you everywhere you go. So when you're wearing it, you're projecting it into the field.
So if my symbol has like something that, would I do a clockwise motion? Is it important that I start from the east and go clockwise, like from birth, or could I go from the underworld?
You can go from the underworld up.
So I'm just going clockwise.
Yeah, that's how I see it. Some magicians see it differently. That's how I see it. Does it work with an amulet? Yes. Well, it depends on the purpose and the intention of the amulet. Like if your amulet's for protection and your sigil is for protection, that would be good. But if your amulet is for protection, can I send in the to the person it's for to help them? Well, let me finish the last question. I'll check with that. If the amulet is for protection and you were doing a protection symbol, that's congruent. But if the amulet is for protection of yourself, but you're trying to like build a business, it might be slightly confusing. You know, it's like partly I think it's really good to have a clear talisman for it so that there's not a lot of other energies in it. If you already have a talisman that you want to clean up, you can clean it up under the moon or put it in some salt water, as long as it's not a particular material that will dissolve in the salt, and then clean it up, you know, with some sage too, and then you can put a new energy into it. The difference between amulet and talisman. Well, amulets sometimes are, well, it depends. It depends on what country, culture, and tradition you're working in. But oftentimes, I mean, we are going to do an amulets and talismans class because there's so much to say about that. But in a very simple way, amulets are oftentimes related to protection, but there's more to it than that. And talismans are energies we want to project or care for, tend to. Okay, Pamela. Okay, so one thing first is you draw your, actually, before drawing, I forgot to say one more thing. Before you draw on an amulet or in the field, and we'll talk about that in a second, one of the things you want to do, the first part we talked about where the two eyes become one and we see into the queendom and kingdom of heaven of our sigil. Once you finally get your sigil in a simple way, the next thing you want to do is you want to induce a trance state and then stare at it again so that it starts to go into your subconscious. Now you're bringing the sigil inside of you. Ways to induce trance states, you know, obviously, probably a quick one that we all think of is trance dance. And one could be Kundalini. You know, obviously I'm a Kundalini person, so a great one for me is to do a Kundalini practice where I'm like in the trance state, and then once I'm in the trance state, I stare at the sigil, and then the sigil enters my system like that. Another one is obvious one is the deep meditative state, where you go into a deep meditative state, you're so in it, and then when you feel ready, you open your eyes and you stare at the sigil. Breath of fire. Really invoke the breath of fire energy for strong, and then when you feel the induced this trance state, then you stare at the sigil. That's very important because then you are telling yourself, you're bringing the sigil into your consciousness, subconscious and superconscious. Okay, so do that practice after this. Then once you've induced the trance state with the sigil, the next thing you want to do, if you want to put it on a talisman, it's again, you make some lemon water. There are other water mixtures you can make if you're into potions and you know how to make certain potions for it. Go ahead and do that too. You dip your little fire fingers or your big fire fingers into the lemon water. You draw your sigil on it, and then you project and wear it. And then I think it's good to have your sigil on your altar too. Okay. Now, If you want to do, or when, for those of you that are practicing rituals or want to strengthen your ritual practice, go into a ritual state. One of the things you can do on your grid is you call in the 8 directions, right? You acknowledge the lower world, the netherworld, this middle world, and the star nation, the upper world. And then in that space, draw your sigil into that grid, that sacred circle that you just created for yourself. Now you do it. It's good to have a focal point of your sigil. It could be like you put your, you want to put it into something. You don't just like put it wherever. You got to put it somewhere. So I'm going to take my necklace off as an example here. And then I would place the necklace in the center of the altar, like that. Then I remember how I'm drawing the sigil with my fire fingers, right? So then what you do, maybe we can lift this up a little bit. You call in the holy beings of the 8 directions, the below world, all the holy beings there, star nations, this middle world. You create this powerful protection and sacred circle here. Because you want to be very mindful when you do this. It's not something you just do wherever. Mindfulness and how we work with energy. So then what you do, of course, in the very first practices I told you in the beginning, you want to make sure you do those. You're calling upon, you're cleansing, the offerings to the ancestors, offerings to the land, you know, all the steps I told you. Then you go, you inhale. And for those of you that like the right leg can indicate action moving forward. For those of you that like the Egyptian style where you lead with your heart, you walk, step in with your left forward. You do either one. Right is willfully setting something in motion. Left is heartfully led by the heart, setting something in motion. Okay? So then you would inhale, point to where your talisman is or your crystal or where you're implanting the sigil that's going to be on your altar that you're going to wear. And you go and you draw, you bring your hand in, your drawing hand, and you draw just like how you draw your sigil into it. And then when you're complete, silence yourself, and you're done. Got it? Everyone got it?
Step back with the same foot you step forward with.
Yeah, step back with the same foot you step forward with. So you're going to put yourself in the grid. Now, one thing that's noticed that I want to note, when we drew the sigil on the grid earlier, let me pull this up one more time. This is where we start to get into like a little bit more magical workings that we haven't done in previous classes before. When you, yeah, I'll repeat the steps in 1 second, Alexandrina. When you draw your sigil on your grid, for those of us that want to work more with the directions, pay attention to where majority of the energy resides in here. Because that is indicators of maybe where you want to make offerings for your sigil to be moving forward. For me, would be very much in the south, very much in the southeast, very much in the west. Offerings to the fire, offerings to the water. They probably want to assist me moving it forward. And what was that for? To create it on our altar space. Yes, this is for your altar space, yeah. When you put it on the grid, then you can see where, if you like to do that, what elements you want to work with to make offerings to, or what ways you want to work in ritual with the sigil. You don't have to do this, it's just if you want to. Okay, let me go a couple more questions here. Can you repeat the steps again? Yes, so Alexandrina, the steps are, you place your talisman or your stone, your recording stone, remember I spoke about in the beginning, could be the water that you're going to drink. Could also be a crystal, something that's going to go on your altar in front of you, inside your grid. Remember your 8-way grid and your lower world, middle world, upper world. You created this magic circle. Then you inhale. And again, right foot moving forward is setting something will in motion. Left foot moving forward is guided by the heart, bringing it in motion. There's mind and heart. Neither are better or worse. It's just what you feel. Like, do you need more heart to get this going? Or do you need more fire? You know, just like whatever you feel is best for you. You're inside your grid. You look at your talisman, your recording stone, the water, whatever it is. You inhale, take your fire fingers, you bring it back like this, and you step through this. You draw your sigil on the tool you're working with, and then when you're complete, you just bring it to silence, and you're done. Then you can wear it or put it on your altar after you've induced a trance state. It's very important that you induce the trance state because you want to bring it into your subconscious so that when you're doing this ritual practice, all of you are involved. You know, you're all connected.
Do you do the trance state before calling in the directions?
You can do the trance state after. Mm-hmm. But I would do the trance state right after this, okay?
Right after
This class, yeah. And it's very, Giovanna, yes, it's very good to put your sigil on your altar so you can see it and pray with it and make offerings to it. Now, one thing that's very important, I know some people had to go, but hopefully they hear this. When you're complete with your sigil, let it go. Remove it from the talisman that you're working with, or the recording stone, or the clearing, or the crystal. Clean it off because you might want to use that tool for another sigil that's different. Because, you know, sigils grow and move. Like I have all kinds, I never keep the same sigil. And it's also important, you don't want to have too many sigils going at the same time because then you're drawing that energy, you're working that energy. And it's really good to be simple. Like one of my intuitive, very dear friends, Gianna, she's like, you can only handle 3 big things at once. You know, like don't try to do more. And I think that that's really useful. Like make sure you can care for what you're setting in motion. It's very, very, very important. Because if you aren't ready to care for it, you will be tired all the time, exhausted, and it will draw energy from you rather than support you and bring you more. Feather, hi Feather. Do you always draw a sigil with the hand you write with? I'm left-handed and draw. No, you as you wish. Whatever you want to do. It's good to see you. Is your grid oriented with south on top? Mine is. How do we clean it off? So Magdalene, my grid is oriented with south on top because I'm working with ascending energy and descending energy. Now you can shift it. You can put north on top, but just understand what you're doing. Okay, Melissa Gilbert, how do we clean it off? Okay, the way to clean it off is, you know, obviously there's the medicine sage. If I'm going to clean a sigil off a talisman, I like to put it outside in salt water under the moon. That's how I like to do it. You can also do it. Salt is a very powerful cleaning agent, super useful. And then you can work with like sage too if you need to, or some sage. Put some sage down and like clean it off 4 times. Bye, Feather. Good to see you. Okay, cool. So that is grid. The first step in the 8 directional and 3 layered grid work, and the first a layer of Sigil Craft. And today is a day of Aries, so it's a really powerful moment to project energy in motion. Be very mindful and careful. Whatever you set in motion, you want to make sure you have the energy to tend to it. It's very, very important. The art of magicianship requires great care and responsibility to oneself and one's life. You want to be it requires a lot of responsibility. So I just want to speak to that. And today is a new moon. So today's a very useful, tonight technically is a new moon at 8 something, or 2 a.m. or something. It was 2 a.m. this morning. Okay, so we're in the new moon. Happy new moon, everybody. We're going to be doing a new moon ritual this evening. And we're going to be working with our sigils this evening in new moon ritual. It's from 8 to 10 virtually live. You're welcome to join in. And and also this is a donation-based class. So if you have a donation you want to contribute, just let me know. You can Instagram me. And then also same thing for new moon tonight. It's also donation based, and we'll be bringing these sigils into ritual this evening with those. And some people will be there that weren't in class today, but they'll get to be part of that ritual. How do you tune into new moon tonight? New moon tonight is through the Living Village Culture
/Ouroboros.
/livinvillageculture.com/Ouroboros, OUROBOROS, and we're going to type that into the comments here. And thank you, Melissa. If you want to contribute, just Instagram me and I'll send you my little thing. And Do we DM you? Yes, you can DM me for contribution. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for coming. I know some people have to go. And for those that are still here, I like to open up the last little bit for any questions. And then from questions, I close it. For those that are leaving, make sure you close your circle. I am going to close the circle tonight from today, but it's very important when you do sigil craft work that you close it afterwards, because you don't want to be drawing energy that exhausts you. Okay, great. So before we move on, are there any questions? Before we close this up, are there any questions and comments? Pamela, how do you close? So the way that you close is you say, thank you to all of the benevolent guides and allies, all the holy beings. Thank you so much. Sometimes I will close it moving counterclockwise, but I usually say thank you and I make an offering. And I say this circle is closed, never broken, always connected and always open, but this ritual working is complete. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I make an offering to all of the holy beings that have assisted. How long do you keep the sigil around, Giovanna? You can keep the sigil as long as you need. Like the sigil I made for the Oracle Arts Academy, that's becoming the logo for the Academy. So I'm projecting that into the world as the prayer moving forward. So that's going to probably be there after my life. It's going to keep going. It's part of the legacy moving forward, because I know that that's my life work. If it's a sigil that you want to just work with for a month, or if you want to project into to a healing energy that's going to support their healing energy, when the healing is complete, then you would close the sigil. Okay?
Can you say that part again? This circle is complete, never broken.
Always open, but my magical working right now is complete. Thank you, all my benevolent beings and allies. Can you go through some simple words that relate to each direction again? Birth, childbirth, flight, etc. Yep, absolutely. I can do that. And then thank you so much, Lilith. Appreciate your words. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so I'm going to go into what you requested, Melissa. I'm just checking if there were. Yes, Jacqueline, I am going to do the closing after I respond with some of the questions. So I'll close, but make sure you close yours too. I love you. All right, so I'm going to respond to your question, Melissa. So we're going to talk about simple words that relate to each direction. Okay, are you in North America by chance? Are you in America, Melissa?
Missy.
Oh, it's Missy. Oh, is that Missy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, Missy, hey, okay, you're in us. Okay, so now, I forgot your last name was Gilbert. I'm going to bring this forward. I'm going to bring this one too, because sometimes it's hard for me to see. Okay, so Missy's question was, what can we talk about the directions a little bit more and some keywords? Okay, so if you want to start in the east, which I do, I always start with new beginnings, the sunrise, and the new birth, the birth of a new day. And I acknowledge the mind. You know, this is breath, the breath of life, and the intelligence of my mind, the world that is made of mind. That's how I start with the East. And I would start in the East in the context of this. Now, moving into Southeast. So this is also about, the East is the ascent. So this is growth, right? It's like birth, rebirth. It's also related to growth and illumination. So when I'm moving into the Southeast, this is very much about creative flow and erotic flow, you know, the creative energy that sometimes can be erotic. So I'll acknowledge the Southeast like that, the erotic creative flow that helps to make manifest the world. This is all new child energy. We get to the South. South is the fire. Now there's a lot of different ways to associate, for instance, elemental beings or animals or winged ones or standing ones or two-legged ones. For this, to answer your question, I'm going to keep it more what I'm doing, because tomorrow in Neteru class, we're going to associate the Neteru with them. So the South is the fire, you know, the fire that brings passion. Remember, we just came from erotic creative flow with the Southeast, and then we get to the fire, which is the passion to give that all of that energy towards, you know. And the South is also very much related to because this is the maiden, right? This is the maiden energy. This is like adulthood, when you're like flourishing in your prime. So this is fire, is that creative, the passionate energy that also transmutes and transforms anything that needs to be released or let go of, that also brings forward the ignites all that energy that's needed to make manifest in the world. Fire. Southwest, which is going to, oh yeah, this is where I said we're starting to move towards, I need to stand right here actually. I don't know if they're gonna be able to read that.
Yeah,
So if you face it this way to me. Yeah, I was gonna try to map it out. I'm not gonna do that. Okay, south to southwest, this is more yin, this side, east to south. South to southwest is more yang. So this is about like cultivation. Southwest is very much about cultivation, abundance, like outward energy. So southwest can very much be about the movement forward, and also the movement to completion, because west is where we start to go to rest. Okay, so we go to west, which is water, we're going into sunset. And so this is the time of often introspection, going inward. So thank you to the holy waters of the world, and thank you for the night that's coming, and thank you for this sunset as the sun is going to rest, and I go inward. It's one way to, or the ever-flowing waters of the world that tend to all of creation. There's some things you can say. Then when we go west to northwest, this is where we're descending. Oftentimes this is related to eldership. This is where we start to get into the ancestral realms. And so oftentimes I'll start to communicate to the ancestors. North is earth directly, and it's the earth below us. It's also fertility. I'll speak around the northwest about thanking the ancestors, all the ancestors that dreamed us all into being. And then the north is about the fertile earth. Thank you to the fertile earth for everything. The fertility, and also and thank you to all of that has passed, the death, the compost, everything that is going back to the compost to bring life again. So that's what this could be, is that, I'm just gonna go for a little bit forward. Yang, expressive, yin on this side. Is that what you're asking, Cassandra? Yes, this is yin down here. Absolutely.
The western side is yin.
South and northwest.
Northwest.
Quadrant is yin, but the southwest quadrant is yin.
I wrote these out to read to you, but I can't read them because they're upside down. Oh yeah, so this is also related to the mystery. This is the north is a great place to acknowledge the mystery. Say thank you to the mystery of life. Thank you to the unknown. Thank you to the oracle. It's a great place to acknowledge the mystery. This is what I wrote here. Acknowledge, thank you. I can't read my own writing. I was working on this yesterday. This is for the oracle arts. Okay, yeah. Now, from the north to the northeast, this is where we are, the return to the light. So this northeast is very much about from the darkness, from death, from the night, from in the fertile soil of the earth, where light, we start to return to the light, where we start to move into a new day. So at this point, I'll speak to the inner journey of dreaming. Thank you to the dreaming realm, that realm, the imaginal realm where information comes to me and vision comes to then start a new day and to start my life with in a new way. When you were born, of course, Pamela, it's classic. Good one. No wonder you're a channeler. So this is a lot of what you can say about the Northeast, and then you complete right here.
Did you say that northeast is yang?
Yeah. Because you're starting to dream again, and you're starting to bring forth renewal energy and like the new day that's coming. Thank you. I can't read my own writing. I love this. So, I'm so glad. I'm so glad to see this is useful. I'm so glad to see you. So that's the way that you can start to work with these elements of creation and start to work your sigil in a new way. And any more questions before we close?
That was awesome.
Good?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Mytheners, can you briefly go over yes, okay. So now the underworld gets a bad rap, which is unfair, you know? So in the Egyptian cosmology, now again, it depends on what cosmology you're working with. I'm coming from more of an Egyptian cosmology. I will continue to come from that place. Now, so in the Egyptian cosmology, there's two rivers. I'm going to talk more about this tomorrow. There's the river in the netherworld, the underworld, and there's the river in the above world. There's the boat that you take, the soul takes to go to the underworld, and then there's the boat the soul takes, the celestial barge that comes from the stars and returns back to it. So in the context of this class and this 8 gridded circle and the 3 worlds, when we're acknowledging the netherworld, the duat is what it's called, we're acknowledging that the Osiris's rights and Ma'at's rights. And we're going to talk more about this tomorrow, but we're acknowledging all the beings that care for all the soul's journey returning home again. Yes, it is the mentee, absolutely. The halls of a mentee are inside the duat. So the halls of a mentee are inside the duat. Yep. Is it best to keep your sigil private? If you don't, and I'll speak to the halls again and I'll answer your question. If you don't want people to know about your sigil, keep it private. But if you are trying to project it into the world and you want the world to see it, send it out. Sometimes people will do collective sigils that we cast out, that we all work on together. Maybe we could do one sometime as a group, like a collective sigil of like whatever we want to be, ancestral healing energy, and we can make one together. So anyways, to finish the lower and the middle and the upper world. So the lower world, I always like to call in the support of Osiris, also known as Osiris, from the lower world or the netherworld. He's very much about regeneration, regenerative culture, regenerative energy. He's also about rebirth and resurrection and death and the cycle of life and death. At this time, where regenerative energy, regenerative farming, regenerative everything is needed. Part of why I like to call upon him is because that's what he leads. And often they say when you make offerings into the netherworld or when souls go into the underworld to weigh their heart with the light with the feather, all the prayers that are set forth under there are brought into the fertile soil that feeds the earth, that then grows crops that feeds the people. So why the Egyptian netherworld ancient Egyptians took such great care to understanding the underworld is because they understood that fed the middle world too. And so again, why you want to say benevolent allies and guides, benevolent beings, is because you want to make sure you're connecting with the benevolent ones. You don't want to draw upon energies that are going to use you in a way that's not to your benefit or to anyone else's. So that's the underworld. The middle world is the one world we're living in. Now the Egyptian Neteru related to that is Shu. So the middle world is planet Earth, everything that's going on here. And so you can relate to the Earth herself and greet her as you wish. And then it's also a great place to acknowledge the swimming ones, the standing ones, the 4-legged, the 2-legged, all of the beings that are non-human too, the insect kingdom. That's a place to make a good offering to this middle world that we are inhabiting at this time in this cycle of our life. And then the upper world is the star nations, and that's where we come from and that which we return to. So it's all of our ancestors and guides from the stars, and then all of the beings that do support us in our works from the stars. And so when we're calling upon them too, again, our benevolent is key, the ones you want to be in relationship to. We're saying thank you to our star nations because they're assisting us, and we are made of the body of the earth and we are made of the body of the stars. And so it's a combination of those two things. Is Geb 2. Geb is the earth particularly. And then Shu and Tefnut, or technically, Shu specifically is the space between Nut, the sky, and Geb, the earth. Shu and Tefnut are partners. They're they're dryness and moisture. They work together and working with all of the weather patterns inside of Geb and Nut. That was Magdalene's question. Which is which? I reverse them so much. Shu has the feather. Shu is the moisture, and Tefnut is the dryness. But maybe you know this about me, Maz. I'm a little bit like dyslexic. I reverse things. I'm pretty sure Shu is the dryness. Tefnut's the moisture. I'll double check it, but I'm sure that's what it is. But I associate them together, so I don't like separate them. Okay. Any more questions before we close? All right, so we're gonna close. I'm gonna do this very simple. Yeah, thank you. This is super fun. Okay. So to close, I'm gonna do simply. Sometimes I do it standing. I'll do it simply here. I just want to say thank you. Say thank you to Newt, Sky beings, and also say thank you to this middle world, Shu, Tefnet. And say thank you to the and to give this earth we're upon, to the underworld, Osea, Ma'at. And say thank you to the northeast, holy beings of the northeast. Thank you to holy beings of the north, holy beings of the northwest, thank you. Holy beings of the west, thank you. Holy beings of the southwest, thank you. Holy beings of the south. Holy beings of the southeast, thank you. And holy beings of the east. And thank you to the Oracle Nefertiti, all of our ancestors that dreamed us into this exact configuration. And to like that, thank you to all these ancestral homelands that have come together, all of the people, human and non-human too, that have been tending to all the ecosystems from where we inhabit and let's come together in this alignment. And say thank you to all of the indigenous voices and beings that have been tending to these ecosystems. And you know, may all that we're learning here be a great benefit so we can support this great transition, this great turning, and learn how to adapt and become part of the ecosystem again in some way, in some magical way. May these technologies support us and be in service to this great time and make of our life an offering that makes one beauty for 7 generations to come, a place for them to come and live and be and flourish and thrive. May we make a thriving life in this land and moving forward. Leaving a legacy that we feel proud of, leaving a legacy we feel really good about, leaving a legacy that creates more magic and beauty for 7 generations in the future and more. Oh, blessed be. Peter here, thank you. Thank you everyone for coming. Tomorrow is Egyptian cosmology and everything we learned here today. We're going to apply the Egyptian deities in Neteru in relationship to them. So it's building. And then we'll use this, what we learned here today, Thursday. And again, we have the new moon right, and it was sent in the comments. And if you feel to donate, just please private message me. Thank you for coming. Thanks everybody. Yay. Oh, this is nice to read. I never read them before. Oh, what does Ankh Neteru mean again? Yes, Ankh is, I'm going to talk about Ankh tomorrow. I forgot last week, but I'm not going to forget this time. Ankh means so many things. Ankh is, you know, in a simple way, like, I mean, I don't even know how to say it in one word, but eternal life, but it's so much more than that. Now, Neteru, Ankh is eternal life and more. And Neteru are the qualities, the principles, the beings of the natural world that make up all of this world and where we come from and where we return to. So when I'm saying Ankh Neteru, Ankh Neteru, Ankh Neteru, I'm saying acknowledging the eternal life cycle of where we come from and where we're returning to. Is the link to donate on your website? It's on my Instagram, which is ISIS_Indria. There, and then you can just private message me and I'll send you the little thing, the little Venmo. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a beautiful day, evening, and all of it. And some of us will align in ritual tonight.
Aloha. 8 o'clock tonight.
8 o'clock.
Aloha. Love you, ladies.
Love you.